up here, and this should be good. All right, we're in. Okay, edit. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very privileged this afternoon. We're down on the range with Jim Clark Jr., and I'm very pleased to say that Jim is the new USPSA national champion in the 3-gun discipline with rifle, shotgun, and handgun. And we're so pleased. The Clarks have been great supporters of ours. We're very pleased to be associated with them. But also, they talk about a shooting family, huh, Jim?
Well, we were brought up on it, so that's our hobbies.
Well, Jim's going to give us some tips on several different guns, but right now I believe he's going to do a piece with a rifle for us.
Yeah, I'd like to go over one thing that, of course, most of our shots are either positioned or offhand, with a lot of shots being offhand. And one of the tips that we'd like to do for the offhand shooters, of course, is breaking the first shot. And one of the big problems is people want to move their head, or they get up and they can't find the scope or the dot, whichever you use, a scope or a red dot sight. Get your position. Now this, of course, is completely unpractical for hunting, or because you would never have this much time. But for a competition sense, get your sight picture, bring the gun down, and leave your head still. And when the buzzer goes off for your first shot, you're there.
Well, Jim, tell us now, what is your rifle? Now, obviously, this is some sort of AR-15 looking gun with a bipod on the front.
Yeah.
But what is your rifle? Tell us what it is.
Okay, this is an Eagle Arms AR-15 with a 1.5 to 5 Leopold scope, Harris bipod, aluminum forearm, a heavier barrel with a Clark muzzle brake.
Okay, now did your brother-in-law have something to do with this muzzle brake?
Yes, he invented it and I produce it. So that
okay.
I make the money on it and he gets the fame.
Well, whatever. Well, let me get out of the way, and Jim's going to show us some stuff here. Edit 3. All right, hold it just 1 second. Let me make this. Jim, explain to us, if you would, how that muzzle brake works.
On the AR-15, of course, you're doing with a fairly high velocity bullet. You'll see the 2 large ports are mainly for recoil from front to rear. Also have 2 top holes for the muzzle rise. With an AR-15, it's fairly easy to get the muzzle to go down if you make the top holes too large. What we're looking for is complete neutrality with where the muzzle doesn't move at all, of course, for rapid fire.
And you folks do sell that if someone would like a muzzle brake fitted like that to their gun, which does make a difference on for speed shooting, shooting for time. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
All right. Now just go ahead and talk to us. Whatever you want.
All right. What I want to do is just show you that that one-shot draw. Everybody has about, I only know 2 or 3 people that have a really rapid rate of fire after the first shot, but a lot of people lose time on their first shot, hunting for the target, hunting for the scope. So let's see what it looks like on the clock. Now we're at about 40 yards here on an IPSC target, and I'm just going to do a one-shot draw. I'm going to get my head right. Earmuffs on. And one shot. Try it one more time. That was 86/100ths of a second. 91/100ths of a second. I can tell you just from what my sight picture was, those shots are probably about 1.5 inches apart in the A zone. So that really works by getting your head set, bringing the gun to port arms, and then don't move your head and just till the buzzer goes off, just bring the gun right back. Works pretty good. It works as equally well for the pistol as the shotgun.
Well, you know, that's something I never really thought about before. Of course, that's why, one, you're a champion shooter, is you know all these things already.
Well, it's a little trick. It won't save you a lot of time, but if you've got 6 or 7 one-shot draws in a match, it adds up.
3, 2, 1. All right.
All right. Same position. Head in line. Get comfortable. You got time. Leave your head still. Bring the gun down. The buzzer goes off. The gun's in place. You can almost snap shoot the shot if you do it right. with a little practice.
3, 2, 1.
All right, what we're going to do here is go prone on the prone position. There's not many variations you can do on this. The only variation I know of is some people like to turn their Harris bipod around to the front, tie strings to it, turn it around to the rear, and flip their hands open. Personally, I like to go to the front and just grab onto the bipod and pull them both out when I go prone. Let's see what it looks like. Of course, that's going to be your steadiest position. With a Harris bipod, it's just like shooting off a bench.
Well, tell me something, Jim. What are the ranges that you would normally shoot in a rifle match or three-gun match with a rifle?
In an IPSC match, with the rifle, anywhere from 7 to normally 300 yards. And you never know what the course of fire is, so you have to be prepared at all ranges.
What sort of bullet or loading configuration do you like to use for your match guns?
It's a little different for every match. Normally I'm using a 52 or a 55 grain bullet. For the flat trajectory, the 69 shoot good too, but I just like the flat trajectory of the lighter bullet.
3, 2, 1.
What I'm going to do now is just a rapid fire sequence on one target, and for about 10 shots, and we'll see how long it takes. Even at that speed, with a good muzzle brake, good gun, you know where it's sighted in at, there's no problem keeping them in the A zone at this distance, especially on one target like that. It's fairly easy.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
All right, today we're going to look at some handgun techniques. One-shot draws, left-hand shooting, and reloading. These will be the three that most people have trouble with. One-shot draws is with the rifle or the shotgun. It's where you can either gain or lose a lot of time. A technically correct draw.
Can we edit there?
Yeah.
That's fine. Just pick up talking about the draw. Big fine. Okay. Edit. 3, 2, 1.
All right, a technically correct draw, according to quite a few of the national champions and good shooters, from a surrender position would be hands down, bring the gun up and out instead of the swing. That's what most people will do, is the swing, especially with these open front holsters. It's hard to get out of that habit. But here I've already picked up the sight, and now I'm out, and I can fire the gun as soon as it gets into position instead of having to hunt the sight after I get there. On my left-hand draw, I prefer not to use an ambidextrous safety. This is a matter of personal preference. Some people like the ambidextrous safety. My left-hand draw, or weak hand shooting, strong hand, knock the safety off of my strong hand and shoot left-handed. I don't seem to have any problem with the gun transfer. We'll try to do one at full speed here, and I can show you that it's not much slower, if any, than an ambidextrous safety. With a little practice, it can be just as fast as the ambidextrous safety, and you don't have the problems of the ambidextrous safety. All right.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
All right, today I'm going to be using a 38 Super Para Ordnance with a Tasco PDP-3 red dot scope. The slide's been lightened, the gun's been completely accurized. It has a compensator on it. With their Para Ordnance mags, you're looking at a 19-in-1, or in some cases a 20-in-1 capacity. Really preferred by a lot of the IPSC shooters.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
Alright, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to set my timer here for about 2 seconds. And you'll hear that it's got a delay and 2 horns. The first is horn for start and a horn for the stop. 2 seconds. What I want to try to do is draw. I'll dry fire on the target, reload, dry fire on the target in about 2 seconds. As you can see, with a little practice, that's a fairly easy drill, and one that you need to be capable of doing for a competitive shooter.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
What I'm going to try to do is a drill we use in a lot of our competitions called a prez or a vice prez, where we'll start from a surrender position normally, draw 2 shots on each target, reload, 2 shots on each target. Ideally, it should be under 5 seconds, so let's give it a try. Alright, even with a not so good reload, we're looking at a 4.61 run there. And you're talking about 12 shots with a reload and a draw from a surrender position.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
Alright, we're going to try it one more time, see if I can get the reload a little better and get it under 4.5. Alright, that was a 4.27 run, 12 shots and a reload from a draw position.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, this afternoon we're going to play a little shotgun. This is a Benelli Super 90 Mark I. I prefer it for competition, mainly for IPSC. There's no alibis. It's fairly realistic. So you can't have anything that will jam. This is the most reliable shotgun on the market, even though the recoil may be a little more severe than some of the others. It loads fast and it never fails. What we're going to do is, well, if I can get it to work here.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
Alright, the HK loads very well. This is an Armstead speed loader. Most 1100s, 1187s, or even the Benellis all use a bracket that holds the speed loader for easy insertion and holding of the bracket for loading. I prefer to do it with my fingers. The competition now, where you've got as many as 15 or 20 shots, our tubes are not long enough on the Benellis yet to quite run with 1187s. So we rely on the speed loader. They load very fast. Whoop. Edit that.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
The Armstead speed loader holds 4 shells, and the ease of loading of this, there was 4 shells. I can load, and while I'm on the move, and still maybe lose only a step to the higher capacity guns. So I'm in the ball game with this gun.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1.
What I'm going to do is try to show you a reload on the move and show you how you can be competitive with this shotgun with the lower magazine capacity. Let's give it a try. That was a reload on the move, 3 shots, about a 5-yard move, and 3 shots. It took about 3.5 to 4 seconds. The speed loaders will do their job if you just play with them enough to learn how to use them.
Edit. 3, 2, 1.
The mounting technique, or the first shot of a shotgun, all depends on what array you're shooting. Bird techniques, steel techniques, sometimes are completely different. If you know your situation in a combat match, of course it'll be much the same as the rifle or the pistol. You'll get your aiming point, bring the gun down, leave your head still. When the timer goes off, you'll pop a shot. It's almost instantaneous. Where was it?
Edit. 3, 2, 1.
Let's do some one-shot drills with the shotgun on these 18 by 24 rectangles at about 10 or 15 yards. It'll be much quicker than the rifle or the pistol because of the slop you can get with the shotgun. Let's try it. Almost instantaneous with the shotgun. Center hits.
Edit. 3, 2, 1.
All right, we're going to get on the timer now and do a one-shot draw for time and a one-shot on the 3 plates for time. Let's do the one-shot draw first. .41 of a second for a one-shot draw. Now let's try one shot on each plate. Guess better do that again, huh?
Edit. 3, 2, 1.
All right, now let's try to do one shot on each plate and just see the difference between the speed of the rifle, pistol, and the shotgun. .14 for 3 different targets, 3 shots. The shotgun is without a doubt the great tranquilizer. There's nothing that can stay with it in a combat situation.
Like on Little Big Man, so you got to have them. Okay, we're on. All right, intro 1, edit. 3, 2, 1. We're in. Well, hello. I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and welcome again to this week's edition. We have another great show for you. We have some interesting gun tests and some fine guests. So, without further ado, let's let another Shootin' Show begin. Camera, change your camera angle. Can you see me and the 2 targets? Yeah. Pretty well? Fine. In place? All right, everybody, earmuffs on. You running, baby? Okay. The reason we had to change angles, this may be more interesting than we have in mind. Can you see I have 2 guns? Can? Yeah. Okay. Didn't have a good. Get a little close. This is hard. This is hard. Let's try it again. All right.
See how it would be.
Huh? One. I'm missing my left. One more. Are you sure we're on? It says record. Huh? It says record. Okay. Bill's our engineer in our editing studio. Bill, we already did this once, and somebody did not have the camera on. Yeah. You got it? All right, let's turn it.
Move on the screen.
There. All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, what we have here today is a most unique product. To my knowledge, this is the smallest gun of its type for what it is. This is the Ruger SP-101 in .357 Magnum. Now, this gun will also shoot, since it is a .357, will also edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, what we have today is one of the most unique guns of its kind. It is a Ruger SP-101 in .357 Magnum. And this little gun, since it is a .357, will also chamber and shoot the much milder .38 Specials for practice, or if someone does not want the full .357 Magnum cartridge to shoot. But it is one of the very finest small guns that I personally have ever examined. Its size pretty much belies its strength. It has all the capabilities of the .357 Magnum cartridge. Even though it has a 2 1/4 inch barrel, it is still a very, very powerful little gun. This would be a tremendous backup gun for a police officer. But tell you what, with the power this gun has and the accuracy, it's not a bad first gun instead of a second gun. It is relatively easy to conceal if you have a concealed handgun permit. And I really just can't say enough good about these, because it is such a tremendous concept for what it is. It has a rubber grip, which is Ruger has been using now for a number of years, and I think it has some sort of recoil canceling effect, because this little gun just does not recoil like you think it would. There are other short or small .357s, certainly on larger frames than this, that are pretty notorious for recoil, but this little Ruger SP-101 just does not hurt you when it's fired. It will do so many things, be a tremendous trail gun, certainly good for home defense or anything else you need a small but powerful gun for. And speaking of trail gun, of course, the .357/38 Snake Shot is available, and it works real well at close ranges out of these small guns. So we're going to shoot it in just a moment, and we're going to run some velocity tests and let you see just in fact what it will do. That's right here? Okay. All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, what we're going to do, we're going to take this little Ruger SP-101, and I have put some PMC 125 grain jacketed hollow points. This is a plus P loading, and you're going to see in just a moment. Let's see what, just in fact, on the chronograph, how fast the .38 Specials in these short guns go. All right, that one read 788 feet per second. Well, that's a pretty good average of a plus P .38 Special in one of these 2-inch barrel guns. All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, we're going to shoot a Winchester Silvertip, a 145 grain jacketed hollow point. Let's see how fast it goes out of this 2-inch barrel in our chronograph. (1,186 feet per second). Now let me tell you what, that is a pretty sporty velocity. So let's check a couple of more. Back on. And now let's try the great Federal 125 grain jacketed hollow point, which according to Evan Marshall has the best stopping power record going for one-shot stops. So let's see what it does through our short SP-101. Woo! 1125. Wasn't quite as good wasn't as good as I like. We're going to shoot one more. All right. Back on. All right, now then we're going to do the Federal 125 grain jacketed hollow point. See what it looks like through the chronograph. Well, it ran 1,177 feet per second. And of course, these hulls are showing no signs of overpressure or anything like that. And I don't know, you can certainly tell from watching me shoot through the chronograph, I'm certainly in no pain. Well, let's try a hand load that I made from one of the most popular loading manuals, and this is another 125 grain bullet, and my hand load is certainly within the safe specifications of what you can load a 357 in. So let's see what it looks like through the chronograph on my hand load. Be sure my hearing protection's in good, because this thing is loud. So that my hand load is running 1,300, almost 1,350 feet per second. And let me tell you what, friends, that is in fact potent. I don't know of another package this size that is even remotely as potent as this little Ruger SP101. Okay. Now then, friends, just to prove my point, I want you to take a look at it in full recoil, at least in my hands, and of course realize that I am a fairly healthy individual. I'm a pretty good sized old boy, but people even of much lighter stature than me can shoot these guns really well. So let's take a look at it and see what you think. Is crew ready? Ready? Okay, we're out. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, of course, a lot of us, if we had to use this gun for defensive purposes, on the trail, if you were maybe attacked by a rabid animal or you really had a problem, you need to be able to see this gun used up close and personal in a pretty rapid fashion. We have the 145 grain silver tips in here now, and our chronograph just told us it ran about 1,150 or so feet per second in that bracket. So let's shoot this target with a pretty rapid pace. Of course, the 357, it works up close and way out there. So let's see what it looks like. All right. And now that was pretty rapid, and you can see we have all our shots in a pretty good area there. That's probably a 2.5 inch group, pretty much rapid fire at a few feet, and really that's more than accurate enough for close range. But this little gun will amaze you with what it will do. We have shot this gun into a 2.5 inch group out at 25 yards slow fire. So when you're talking about small guns, I really can't imagine a better and more powerful small gun than the great Ruger SP101. Everybody needs at least one. All right, Tricia, stand right here if you will, just right here beside me. And we're going to look over here at the camera. Okay, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, what we have, and of course we're trying to feature more and more women because we have a lot of women who watch our program each week, and certainly for instruction, because a lot of women now are buying guns and handguns especially, and they don't know where to go and get instruction. So from time to time we're going to be doing things with women, because you know what, you ladies out there, you can shoot guns just as well as the men can, in some cases a lot better. You know, typically women and kids are a lot easier to teach than a lot of men are, because men have the John Wayne, and I'm a great fan of John Wayne, nobody write me on that. I'm a great fan of John Wayne. However, a lot of men have what we call the John Wayne syndrome of thinking that a man ought to be born knowing how to shoot a gun. Well, believe me, shooting a firearm has nothing to do with anyone's gender or their manhood or anything else. It's simply a matter of skill and training and paying attention. And you know, many times women, they're used to working in the kitchen. They handle sharp knives. Those that work at the office are used to working on computers and typewriters and things. They have excellent dexterity in their fingers and hands. So women typically are easy to teach how to shoot a gun. Now you'll notice, of course, you know me, I've always got eye protection and hearing protection here on the range. And that's something that we need to do every time we go and shoot, because gunfire, especially out of handguns, on a continuing basis, will decrease your hearing ability. So all of us, you know, you don't want to come to the range and go home hurting in your ears or your eyes or anywhere else for that matter. So Tricia has already put her earmuffs on, and she has safety glasses, and she's going to be shooting a new Smith & Wesson 617 today. And we do thank our good friends at Smith & Wesson. We're in their gun loan program, and they do furnish us with firearms to be tested and used on our program, and we do appreciate that. They're some fine people. So Tricia, what we're going to do is, this is a new gun to you. You haven't shot this particular gun before. Now, previously you have shot a semi-automatic pistol, a couple of different kinds, and I think one revolver. So our drill is going to be the same. Now, we've already run through our dry firing practice, and since this is a 22, we're not going to dry fire a 22 caliber revolver. But our mechanics remain the same. We're going to point the gun at the target. We're going to find our front sight in the center of our rear sight here. And friends, let me tell you what, many times when a new shooter is starting out, let's don't put the target out at 25 yards. And the majority of the time when a lady would have to defend herself, it's going to be closer than this. So let's let a new shooter start up close somewhere so they can see where they're hitting on the target. So, edit. All right, we'll need to stand about right here. All right, turn just about like that. Now, can you get both of us? And all right, let's come down here.
Don't slide.
Yes, Daddy.
Get your posture right.
Okay.
Let's stand about right here. About back here. Okay.
Okay.
Good. All right. Now then, Tricia. All right, Will. All right. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now then, Tricia, you're right-handed. Take the gun in your right hand. All right. And now then, we're going to hold it out like so. Take our left hand and cup it around our right hand. We're going to remember, folks. We push. If you're right-handed or left-handed, whichever gun you take, whichever hand you take the gun in. Edit. 3. All right. Just 1 second. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, we're going to take the gun in your strong hand. Tricia's right-handed, so she's holding it, of course, in her right hand. We're going to hold the gun out. She's going to pull back gently, but firmly with her right hand. I'm sorry. Edit. That's okay. It's all right. That's okay. Bear with me, Bill. All right, let's do this again. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, Tricia is right-handed, so she's going to take the gun, of course, in her right hand. She's going to push with her right hand, and she's going to gently but firmly pull back with her left hand. And it's placed right underneath the gun, and I believe it's going to be a comfortable shooting stance for her. Now then, Tricia, hold it out. All right, now then, put your finger on the trigger. Okay. You're going to have shift around. It's okay, we can edit. All right. You're going to have to put your hand a little bit further, right? You want the first pad of your finger right here on the trigger. It's not going to have any recoil at all, which is this going to. Okay. Put in the center hole. All right, now then, gently pull it through. Just pull it through. It's all right. Good. And do it again. You're doing it. Good. And 6 times, of course. And of course, she had one out of the circle, but it's still a good hit. And this is the first time that she had ever picked that gun up. You see, ladies, you can do it. And in other segments, we're going to be moving on to different ranges. But the 22 is such a great gun to start with. It is not intimidating. It didn't hurt your ears or your hands. And it's such a great gun to train and teach people with. And believe me, with the hollow point or like Stinger, CCI Stingers in these guns, they become pretty effective defensive guns if that's what you need them for. Because remember that old saying, a hit with a 22 beats a miss with a 50 Browning. So Tricia, we appreciate you coming down today. And I tell you what, I think you're enjoying. We had her shoot a 44 Magnum a little earlier, and I think she liked it. She jumped a little bit, but I think she really enjoyed it.
Thank you, John.
Good. How do you ever had peanut butter? You ever ate All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. You know, friends, we're down here on the range. It's such a beautiful day. It is February here in Louisiana, but remember, you may see us in short sleeves one week and two coats the next because of our weather here in Louisiana. But we have our good friend Bob Millsap down from Arkansas, and he's brought his family. And this is a very fine young man. This is Matthew right here. And Matthew is a very good representation of what families can do with their kids in a clean and safe environment. You know, it is so important to get children familiar with firearms and teach them safe firearms handling, because Matthew, tell me, how old are you now?
12.
He's 12 years old. Well, see, Matthew is old enough now that he can begin shooting a gun and realizing what, in fact, we have as a responsibility with the firearm. And certainly Matthew is old enough and conscientious enough for safe and responsible firearms handling. Now, he is a fairly new shooter. He's been shooting a .22 some and some other handguns. And today we're going to let him shoot this great Smith & Wesson 617 and .22 long rifle. And I tell you what, Matthew has excellent, from observing him earlier, he has excellent hand-eye coordination. And he may be an IPSC champion one day. You can't tell. Or you might be in bullseye or skeet shooting or who knows what. But we're glad to get him started in the right direction. Friends, you're not wasting time when you take your kids or some friends' kids or whoever down to the range and show them safe gun handling. Because you know what? If Matthew here understands proper gun handling, he's not going to carry a gun to school. He's not going to be out there in the street. He's not going to accidentally shoot one of his friends or a neighbor, because he's going to understand how the guns work and what happens when you pull that trigger. So we're going to let Matthew shoot just a little bit here. And Matthew, we got a pretty close range target, and you know the drill. We're going to find that front sight in our rear sight here. We're going to use both hands. So take the gun in your right hand. All right. And remember, we don't put our finger on that trigger till we're ready to shoot. Take our left hand, hold the gun out like so. Come on out. There you go. And put in that center target there. And let's see you pull through a time or two. Good. All right, do it again. Good. Looking good. One more. Good. And you see, well, so Matthew had all hits in the center target, which is really good for a beginning shooter. Again, we're not out at a great distance. We want everyone who is new to shooting to understand where the bullets are going. So that's why we're using close ranges like we are today. But Matthew, I think you did real well, son. And is it fun?
Yeah.
It's fun. All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. Well, friends, we're here today with a young man named Chris. And I tell you what, Chris, now how old are you?
15.
You'll be 15, you'll be 16 soon, in a month or so. Well, friends, this is a perfect stage to get a young man, or for that matter, a young lady, but especially a young man. Chris is an athlete. He participates in basketball and baseball and soccer in school. And it's a great time to get them interested or starting in any kind of competitive shooting. Certainly a good time to let him understand what guns will do. And he is, you live in a pretty good sized town, Hot Springs, Arkansas, most of the time. And he is not always in a situation where he can go out shooting. So it's so important that a young man like this can learn about guns and learn how they work and what they do. So we're going to be shooting a Ruger P85. It's a 9mm semi-automatic pistol today. And I tell you what, it's so encouraging because Chris here, he listens to direction well. He has good hand-eye coordination. And I believe that he could really be a fine shot. He's doing real well already. And with a little practice, and it's certainly an awfully good sport. And see, when a young man like Chris knows how guns work, when he sees a friend of his or someone else who is not handling a gun safely, you know, you can say, well, wait a minute, whoa, put that down, stop. And see, he's old enough and responsible enough that he can do it. And it's so important because so many accidents can be prevented. In fact, with proper gun handling, all accidents could be prevented or handled safely. And you know, sometimes you'll have an accidental discharge due to improper handling or or a loaded chamber when you didn't think it was, if we observe proper gun handling rules, we'll always be safe even though the gun may go off. So this is a great time to get someone in Chris's age bracket started with safe and proper gun handling. So Chris, we're going to let you shoot this 9mm. Sir, step up to the plate here if you would. And we've already loaded our chamber. Gun your right hand. Now push our safety off. Goes up. Okay. Now then, the first shot is double action, so go right ahead. Good hit. Shoot a couple more times. Good. Go right ahead. Of course, the gun has told us it's ready to be reloaded. I tell you what, Chris, this is the first time he shot this 9mm. That's good shooting. Even at a close range, the group is excellent. And I tell you what, this young man here is well on his way to being an excellent shooter. Edit. Intro this week. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show.
Start over.
Intro. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Shootin' Show. I'm Johnny Rowland, your host, and we're so glad to have you with us. We're glad that you're letting us in your home. I think we have another great show for you. Our response is terrific all over the country. We've got some good gun tests, and we have some very fine, did I say guests earlier? All right. Start. Take 3. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and we're glad to be with you again this week. On today's take 4. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and we're so glad to be with you this week in your homes. We're glad to have you with us here on the program. Our response around the country has just been terrific to our new season, and we're so glad to be continuing and just hope for the very best for you and us in 1993. We've got a great show for you, have some great guests, we have some good features, have some gun tests, so let's let another Shootin' Show begin. All right, out. Okay, edit. I'm in both sides. We've got plenty of room. Okay. You know, friends, years ago, the old timers used to sometimes shoot with 2 guns. So let's see what it looks like on camera today.
What is that? See, if I hold it down, it'll shake. So I gotta.
Got that? Got it, girl? It was already on. Okay, you got it? All right, good. We're not. All right. Now then. Edit. 3, 2, 1. You know, friends, we're going to look at one of the most unique guns I know of today. This is the great Ruger SP-101 in .357 Magnum Changer. Edit. 3, 2, 1. You know, friends, we're going to look at one of the most unique guns that I know of today. This is the Ruger SP-101 in .357 Magnum Chamber. Now, this is a stainless steel revolver. It has a very comfortable rubber grip on it. It's a 5-shot revolver, and it works like the other Ruger double-action revolvers. Has a swing-out cylinder. The Chief Special speed loaders do fit this gun. That's the good news. And even though it is in .357 Magnum chambering, the small 5-shot 38 Special revolver speed loaders do fit it. One thing, a point I want to make, it is a 30, what? What happened?
Stop moving around.
Okay. Edit.
I wonder how you centered, but y'all.
Okay, move your camera angle now. Now move the camera angle. one way or the other so we can come back up with it. Okay? Edit, 3, 2, 1. And I will remind you that this is, even though it's a 357, you can still shoot the much milder 38 specials in this gun. For target practice, or it'll shoot the 38 special / 357 shot loads for rodents or snakes, anything you might encounter out in the wild. This is a tremendous backup gun for a police officer or someone who carries a larger gun. But I tell you what, friends, this thing has so much power, it's not a bad first gun. It's not necessarily just a backup gun. It's a good first gun, in fact. Excellent gun for home defense. It's a good gun for a woman to carry concealed in a purse or wherever else, if she, of course, has the proper carry license, concealed carry license. But this SP101 is such a unique concept. It is so small, you can see it's no bigger than the palm of my hand, but it is, in fact, a full 357 Magnum. Now, we're going to shoot it in just a moment. We're going to look at the chronograph and show you just how much difference there is in the velocities of the 38 Special versus the full 357 Magnum. It is accurate. You can shoot it up close or out at a good distance because the little gun is really extremely accurate, especially even with a short barrel. It really has a good accuracy level to it. All right? All right, edit, 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, we're going to put a couple of lead 158 grain semi-wad cutters that are hollow pointed into our SP101. This is a 38 special loading, and let's see what kind of velocities that the short guns get from a 38 special. Let's take a look at it. Turn around and aim through our chronograph and okay, got it. All right, edit, 3, 2, 1. Friends, you can see that lead hollow point semi-wad cutter, even though it's a plus P loading in our short gun, only went 776 feet per second. So in the shorter barrel revolvers, the 38 Special is a little bit weak, even with a plus P loading. And that is one of the huge advantages that our SP101 has. It carries a full 357. So let's shoot it with the Federal 125 grain jacketed hollow point next. Okay. All right, edit, 3, 2, 1. Okay, friends, remember this is the full 357 Magnum chambering.
Johnny, do it over.
Huh?
My elbow hit the camera.
Okay. Edit, 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, we're going to shoot that Federal 125 grain jacketed hollow point in full 357. So let's see our velocity difference between the 38 Special plus P loading and the full charge 357 in our 2 1/4 inch barrel on our SP101. It didn't register. That's okay. It's in the sun. That's all right. All right, edit, 3, 2, 1.
Like that.
Got a good shot of it? Is it clear? Okay, edit, 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, you can see the difference between the 38 Special and the 357. See, the Federal 125 grain jacketed hollow point went 1,251 feet per second, almost 500 feet per second faster than the 38 Special in this short barrel. Now, that's pretty amazing if you ask me. So let's shoot a couple more rounds through it and see what kind of times we get. This is really an amazing little gun, the power it has. And the good news is, with these rubber grips, it really doesn't hurt your hands. I don't know, some of the ladies out there might not find it comfortable, but for the average sized man, or certainly a woman that is used to shooting powerful handguns, it's really not going to be intimidating. Let's look at the Winchester Silver Tips 145 grains next, and then I have a hand load we'll run through our chronograph, just to show you the power level this little gun has. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Edit, 3, 2, 1, Winchester Silver Tip. Now then, friends, let's see what our silver tip did. It went 1,145 feet per second. Let's get it up where you can see it. All right, you can see our Winchester Silvertip went 1,145 feet per second. Well, that's with a 145 grain bullet. Now, again, this would be an excellent, even a hunting load for small game in our SP-101. Now, I've got a hand load that we're going one more velocity test, and that's a hand load that is in the upper levels of power in some of the loading manuals. But and we're not going to give that powder charge. You can look it up for yourself, but it is certainly safe in our SP-101. And let's see what it does. Okay. All right, one last velocity check. 3, 2, 1. Didn't go. Didn't read. Now, friends, the reason we went to the lengths to show you the velocities this little gun makes, it's really amazing, even with this short 2 1/4 inch barrel, just how much performance it does have. You know, this is primarily going to be a defensive handgun, and let's take a look on paper, and you'll see just how rapidly, even though it's a full 357, and we're shooting the federal ammunition, the 125 grain jacketed hollow points, full 357, let's make a rapid fire target with 5 shots on our paper here, and it is certainly manageable. And believe me, this thing, it is really, I tell you what, I would hate to be on the receiving end of this thing.
Do it.
Edit. 3, 2, 1. You know, friends, we wanted to show you what this little gun would do with different ammunition through the chronograph. One, to show you the power differential between the 38 Special and the 357. A 357 is a lot more powerful, I think, than the average person really realizes. This gun primarily would be used as an up-close defense gun. So let's shoot a quick group on our paper target here and just see what it looks like. Woo! It is loud, even with my hearing protection, it is loud. Now, friends, let's look at our target. Now, that's not a bad group for rapid fire.
Start over.
What? Okay. Golly. All right, edit. Okay, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, let's look at our group here. You know, that's really not bad for rapid fire. And again, our little gun here, our 357 Magnum, that would be a tremendous defensive group. My goodness, especially with the power this little thing has. It's really the thing I want to impress you with. It's really not that difficult to shoot. When Ruger first announced their chambering on this little gun, and I do want to give Masad Ayub some credit for this. I think he helped talk Ruger into making this. He had some gunsmith up in New Hampshire that were making 357 SP-101s on 38 Special original models, and so Masad is really partially responsible for the 357 chambering in this little gun. But the thing is, it just doesn't have the recoil you think it would, and you could tell it certainly wasn't hurting me when I was shooting pretty rapidly up close. Okay, edit. 3, 2, 1. Friends, again, I can't say enough good about the concept on this Ruger SP-101 and 357. It's certainly a gun that I think probably, and I'm always going out on a limb and I'll go again, if I was restricted to one firearm, I tell you what, I'd have to take a hard look at keeping this one if that's all I had, because the 357 will do so much even in this small gun. The Ruger SP-101, 357, everybody ought to have at least one.
Ladies, I'm here to tell you that us... Johnny?
3, 2, 1.
Ladies, I'm here to tell you that we women can shoot just as well as men. One of my favorite guns is the Smith & Wesson Lady Smith 357 Magnum.
Edit. 3, 2, 1.
The Lady Smith 357 Magnum comes in its own case. I forgot what it's made of.
3, 2, 1.
The Lady Smith comes in its own case. It's made of stainless steel, and I think it's very pretty. Let's get a look up close.
Three, two, one.
It's a 6-shot revolver, and since it's a .357, it also shoots the milder .38 specials.
3, 2, 1.
The way to load the Smith,
That's all right. Continue. Good.
the way to load the Lady Smith .357 Magnum is to swing out the chamber and load one by one.
Wait. Edit. 3, 2, 1.
To load the gun, you swing out the cylinder. You load them one by one. There are speed loaders that load 6 at a time, but today we are just loading them one by one.
Edit. 3, 2, 1.
Notice, I'm putting on my hearing protection. I have on eye protection. Now, let's shoot the paper target. Smith & Wesson Lady Smith .357 Magnum.
Edit. 3, 2, 1.
Sometimes I shoot for target practice, and sometimes I just shoot for fun.
Three, 2, 1.
Sometimes I shoot for target practice, and sometimes I just shoot for fun.
All right. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, on today's reloading segment, we're going to actually load a .44 Magnum cartridge. And one reason we've chosen the .44 Magnum is they're just bigger, and it's going to be easier for you folks to see. So what we have here, I'm holding a Winchester .44 Magnum case that has been cleaned. Now, we have run this through a case tumbler, the excellent Dillon, one of their case cleaning machines, and it has come out. The dirt and the powder residue and things are clean from the inside and outside. And we need them clean because when it goes into our reloading die, we don't want that dirt on the brass, because this is a carbide die, a resizing die, and you darn sure don't want any sand or dirt on this brass case, because brass is soft, and what will happen, it will press the dirt or dent the walls of the case if we have any dirt on there. So we darn sure don't want any dirt. So what we're going to do, we're going to resize the case, and we're going to punch out, wonder if there's a word called punch. We're going to punch out the spent primer. And this is very, very important for those of you who don't understand about a cartridge case. The primer is essentially the starter on the cartridge. When the firing pin hits the primer, it causes a flame to go through a little hole in the end of the case here into the main charge of gunpowder. That's what sets it off. And by the way, gunpowder does not explode or detonate. It burns at a very rapid pace. It causes pressures to be built up that forces the bullet out of the case and down the barrel and hopefully onto its intended target. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the cleaned and fired .44 Magnum cartridge case into the loader here. And someone says, well, why do you have to resize the case? Well, every time a case or cartridge is fired, the brass expands within the chamber and seals the powder gases so it'll go the other way. So brass does expand. It's a very flexible metal, and that's why it's used, because it does have some flexibility about it. And the cases are literally stretched. So you want to resize the cases back to their original factory size so they'll chamber easily and function properly. What we do, we've gotten our die, our resizing and decapping die in our press already. So we're going to do that now. All right, it just punched the primer out. The primer fell out the bottom and came down into a little catcher here. And now we'll bring the case back out of the die. And what we have is a resized and deprimed 44 Magnum cartridge case.
There's not many ways I can tell you this camera.
We're just going to follow it a little bit if you can. Do the best you can. Okay, edit 3, 2, 1. Now then, since we're only going to do one, we're just going to load one bullet today. We're going to unscrew the resizing decapping die out of the press. All right, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to run the die in that will bell the mouth of the case. Now then, the reason we need the mouth of the case belled a little bit is so we can start the bullet. Now, I don't know if you can see this, I hope you can. In a resized case, it is actually slightly smaller than the bullet itself, so it won't go in there. So the next thing we have to do, we have to bell the case mouth so we can start the bullet into the case. So we'll do that right now. Screw the die in there and going to bell it slightly. I've got to put a little further in there, in fact. Okay. No, wait. Edit 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, now we've belled or expanded our case mouth and the same cartridge case. Now we can just start this 44 Magnum bullet into the case. You don't want a whole lot of bell, because if you do it too much, you run the risk of splitting the case mouth. But we just want it just enough so we can start the bullet into the mouth of the case. Alright, now then we're going to put our primer. Now some people will want to prime their case first with a new primer. Personally, I prefer to go on and expand the case mouth if I'm doing it like this, and then I'll put the primer in. So let's do that now. Alright, edit 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, we have our belled or expanded case mouth here, a resized case, and I am checking the primer pocket and it looks in pretty good shape. Sometimes, certainly for precision reloading, we'll clean the primer pocket, but this one looks okay to me. Now we've got a primer here, and a primer is a little bitty thing, of course, but this is so important in our loaded ammunition. So what we're going to do to handle primers at all, you've got to be sure that your hands are completely dry and free of any sort of solvent or perspiration or anything at all. Your hands have got to be clean and dry, because certain chemicals will deactivate the primer. Alright, we're going to put it in our little RCBS priming tool here. Put it right down here where it's supposed to go in the center. And we're going to put our case on top of it, and we're going to squeeze until we feel the primer is seated. Now you can tell by feel when it is seated. You don't want to crush fit, you just want it seated firmly. And of course it's going to be down below the case head here. It's going to be at least flat with it, possibly just a thousandth or two of an inch below it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, now we're ready to put our powder in. Alright. Edit 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, what you see here is a powder measure, and this is such an important tool for you. We have to have a powder measure and a scale back over here, and both of these happen to be RCBS units. There are a lot of other good kinds available. There are a number of other good brands and other tools, but this is what we have today. So we have a little funnel here on the bottom of the powder measure, and I've already set this for 200, edit.
Start over, yeah.
Yeah. Edit, 3, 2,
Still,
1.
I already set this.
Yeah. Change your camera angle just a little bit. Just a little.
If I go any further closer, I get cut your head off. If I go any back, I can't go any back further.
Okay. We can come up, maybe fade to black. All right, black and up. Now then, friends, we have we've put some Winchester 296. Now remember, this is a 44 Magnum that we're reloading. We're going to use some Winchester 296 powder. All right, we've already got at least half of our powder measures full. I like to keep at least half of the measure full to keep a fairly equal amount of pressure on the powder that's going to fall out into our cartridge case. So what we do, we've already set it, and this is an upper level hand load for the 44 Magnum. It's safe in my gun. This one happens to be about 24.5 grains of Winchester 296. And we have our scale here. We're going to be sure. What we will do is we'll check our measurements, and let me go ahead and do this. Now then, we're going to put the measure up and down, and that should have released about 24.5 grains of 296 into our case. Now let's go over to our scale, and we're going to check that and be sure. And these scales are typically accurate to plus or minus 1/10 of a grain. And let's see where we are. It takes them just a minute to calm down. I need an electronic loading scale. And I can see by our scale that our loading measure is right on the money. It's just almost exactly 24.5 grains of 296. Okay, we're getting there. Yeah. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, what I did, I took the powder off the scale and put it back in the powder measure. We have an empty and reprimed cartridge case here. So we're going to fill the case with our measurement of gunpowder. All right. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to put our powder charged case back into our press here, and we've got, okay, edit, 3, 2, 1. Now friends, we're going to put our powder charged case into our press here, and we've screwed our seating and crimping die into the press. So what we're going to do is we're going to now insert our bullet into our slightly belled case mouth, and we will we'll pull the press lever down and seat and crimp our bullet. All right, cut it out. All right, edit, 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, now we'll lower the ram on our press, pull the lever up, and we have a loaded cartridge. Now, we're not going to talk about different case lengths or any of that today. On the revolver ammunition, there is a cantilever, which is a little groove around the bullet itself. Now then, in fact, let's see if we can get a picture of the little cantilever. Edit, 3, 2, 1. This little groove, which is the cantilever, is where we're going to seat the bullet to. In fact, we'd like to have our crimp, which in the die will roll the belled mouth back into this little groove here, and that will give us our proper length. Now I like for the case mouth to go about midway or so into the cantilever, because the reason that's there is under recoil you have to have a crimp bullet, especially in revolvers, with a roll crimp, because under recoil the other bullets can pull out of their cases when the gun is fired. They'll go forward. So this is what keeps the bullets in the case. Now there are other types of crimp, the taper crimp and roll crimp, but on revolvers we typically use roll crimps that literally rolls the case mouth into the cantilever. So friends, today we have reloaded our first bullet here on the program, and this gives you an idea, and we'll be going into other things on other shows, but it's really simple. Again, you've got to have that reloading manual, and you've got to be able to read, because this is such a great and safe hobby and a wonderful skill, and for those of us who like to shoot a good bit, this is by far the most economical way to shoot guns, is to do your own reloading. So this is just a starting point, and we're going to go forward from here, but I promise you this particular 44 Magnum bullet is going to shoot just as well as a factory load because of the care we've taken. So until the next segment, and we'll do something else. Okay, reloading segment, edit, 3, 2, 1. Now friends, today on our reloading segment, and I want to mention something at the very beginning, you notice that I have safety glasses on because anytime we work around gunpowder or around primers, it's always a good idea to have safety glasses on. As you've heard me say many times on the show and will hear me say many times again, there's just no sense in not being safe. And if you had a primer or something inadvertently go off, you might drop one on the floor, something could happen. We want to protect our eyes. Some people even use hearing protection. I'm not going to do that today, but I always, regardless of what I'm doing around the reloading bench, I always wear safety glasses. It's very important. Another thing we want to say, we don't store our gunpowder and our primers together. We keep them separate. There's just no sense in taking chances. Anyway, today we're going to look at the Dillon 550 press. This is a progressive reloading press. Edit. All right, you want to come up a little closer on it, and you have to watch your clarity and put it on manual when you get up close to it. How much of it you have in there now?
Hold on.
You're recording this whole time.
Oh.
All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, you've heard me say many times on our program that I really think the Dillon line of progressive reloading presses is about as good as it gets, and I certainly still feel that way. This particular reloading press will load hundreds and hundreds of rounds per hour, and we've had our experience with them has been the rounds that come off this Dillon press, if it's adjusted properly, are every bit as good as factory ammunition. It has a number of very fine safety features, and one of which is this primer tube right here. Now the way these presses work, edit. All right, you want manual or automatic?
Automatic.
Okay, now, as long as it's clear. Okay, edit. 3, 2, 1. As I was saying a moment ago, you have a steel primer tube. You have a protective tube around the actual tube the primers go in. And of course, this is the, you have the edit. That's all right, I'll start over. Let's let it run. All right. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now friends, the way this press works, you'll place a cartridge case, an empty cartridge case, in the first station. And it has a little clip there that holds it in place. And we'll get to this in just a minute on how it works. But what happens is, on your upstroke, you bring the lever all the way down. What will happen, the first case is resized and deprimed. The spent primer is pushed out of the bottom of the case. All right. At another station, it also goes up as we turn the turret on the press. The next cartridge case, at the same time now, is charged with powder, and the case mouth is expanded. In the next station on the press, the bullet is seated. You insert the bullet in the case mouth, it's seated, and in the last station on the press, the case mouth is crimped. Now we're reloading a .45 ACP, a semi-automatic pistol caliber today, and we won't use the same type crimp that we used on the revolver. What we have is a taper crimp, and what happens, the crimp is pushed in very tightly and securely around the bullet, and you do have some variation in how deep you will seat the bullets. Now everyone needs a vernier caliper or something similar so you can match the proper overall length of the loaded round. This is very important because pressures can change on our reloaded case according to the depth that the bullet is seated in the case. So what we have with every stroke of our press here, you have all these things happening simultaneously. And what you have is every time you raise and lower the handle on the press, or lower and raise and properly said, you will have a loaded round here that will be kicked off into the bin here. And it's really such a neat thing. These reloaders come in a box in pieces, and they come with a very fine instruction manual. And one, it's good it does come in pieces for you to put together, because as you put the press together, it helps you understand what is happening and in fact how it works. Now, one advantage that the Dillons have, you have a tool head that can be removed. Now, on this particular tool head, and let's see if we get a close-up of this. All right, you might need to put it on manual. Edit. All right, edit, 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, let's look at our tool head for just a moment. You can see we have the decapping and resizing die here. This, of course, is your powder measure, and the bottom of this die is what operates the powder measure. And then on the other side, we have our bullet seating die, and then we have our crimping die. So this is such a neat system. You can change calibers very quickly. You just change the shell plate, and if you have another tool head with other dies, you can slide this right in the press. So it works extremely well. It's a very fine system. All right, bring that. Edit, 3, 2, 1. And you know, friends, we've been talking about the single stage press, which is the RCBS rock chucker over here on your right. And let's talk about a few things you're going to need if you really want to get started into serious reloading, and especially if you're competing in the IPSC type matches or action shooting matches. You're going to need a lot of loaded ammunition to practice and compete with. But to really have a complete reloading bench, I would suggest this. Everyone needs a single stage press. There are several other very fine brands. This one happens to be an RCBS. We need a powder measure to use with our single stage press. We need an accurate reloading scale. We need a vernier caliper. And let's let you look at one of those. If some of you don't know what a vernier caliper is, let's take a look at it. Edit. Okay, edit, 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, this is your vernier caliper, and this is real important. I got this particular one, I think it was about $18 at Sears, and they're easily found, and it is an important means of measuring case length and the length of the bullet. As I said earlier, pressures can be affected by the seating depth of the bullet. So this is another really important tool that we need for our reloading bench. All right, now come back up to me here. All right, back up. All right. Now then, another edit, 3, 2, 1. Another thing that you're going to need are various types of powder funnels, loading blocks, which I believe we showed you last week, assorted wrenches and Allen wrenches and things to go with your loading press. But as I said earlier, a good scale is extremely important. A powder trickler, which is an inexpensive little thing to help us in our loading. And of course, our Dillon 550 progressive press here. And we're going on the next segment, we're going to cover the press in operation in greater depth and load some bullets. But if you have this sort of setup, you can load almost any caliber. You can get dies for almost any caliber that you might want to reload, all the way from the 25 ACP up to the 50 Browning. And there are presses, in fact, larger than the rock chucker over here that will, in fact, load the giant 50 Browning case. But most everything else in between the 25 and the 50 Browning can be handled right here on these two presses. And this is a start. We're not talking about a vast expenditure of money. What I recommend for the average person who's just starting to reload, start with the single stage press and a few tools here to the basics like the powder measure and the scale, and then you can understand the process. And after you've progressed there a little while and understand how the ammunition is constructed, then I would suggest going to a press like this Dillon 550. And there are several features on the 550 we'll cover at a later date that I particularly like. But it's, I tell you what, for what it is, you cannot beat it for the money. And Dillon Precision even has an installment plan available for the reloading presses. And we're going to give you their phone number and address at this time. So for this week, that's reloading. Have we been running the whole time? You just turned it on. All right, friends, here we are at our reloading segment again for today. And what we're going to do, we're going to load some ammunition on the Dillon 550 press. And we're going to go through several stages and show you how you start out. You know, it's easy once the press is in place and you've got your powder in the measure. You got the primers in the tube, but it's easy once you get started. But we're going to show you the procedure that I use for starting to load it. Edit 3, 2, 1. Okay, friends, I have just dumped some primers out of the little primer tray, their little package they come in, into a primer flip tray. This one's made by Lee Precision, and the primers will fall into the little tray here. Some of them will be down, some will be up. We need all of them with the bottom facing up. So the way this works, you just give them just a little turn from back and forth, and in fact, it will turn, due to the little ridges in the bottom of the flip tray there, it will turn all of them the way we need them. All right, edit. Edit 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take one primer. And remember, a while back I said to handle primers, and we've got to be very careful because the primer has a little explosive charge in it. It's not much, but it's more than you might think. If you have one go off on the floor or something one time, believe me, it will get your attention. But anyway, we have one primer, and what I'm going to do, because I haven't poured the powder in the measure yet, I'm going to take one case and I'm going to resize it. I'm going to put one primer in, and we're going to use our case to set our powder measure. So we do want a clean case, and I want a, I don't know if I would use that or not. All right, because it will have a primer. Okay, edit 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, we're going to come back to our primers in just a moment. The next thing we're going to do, I'm loading 45 ACP. I'm going to take some Accurate number 5 powder, which is a very fine powder. Number 5 is awfully good in the 45 caliber. So what I'm going to do, and you have to be extremely careful, I think it goes without saying, absolutely no smoking anywhere near. When we're handling gunpowder, you don't want anybody around you or close to you smoking, because as we've said before, powder really doesn't detonate. It's not like dynamite, but it burns at a very rapid pace. And I don't know if you'd be able to tell the difference. If you burn or set a pound of gunpowder on fire, I don't know if you'd be able to tell the difference in it and dynamite in the final effect. So this is something we're very, very careful about. I don't do this anywhere near an open flame. If you're indoors and it's real cold, you don't want to do this anywhere around an open flame heater, anything like that, or a fireplace, because there's just no sense in taking chances. So out here in my reloading shop, what I have is an electric heater, and it's way back over there, firmly out of the way, in case I happen to spill some powder or something like that. And I do want to stress, we need to keep our loading bench relatively clean. I have a little shop vacuum that I use out here. You want to keep down the dust and any spilled powder, any residue, anything like that. We want to keep our reloading bench clean. It's very important. So let's take our lid off our powder container, and we'll take the lid off the measure, and we're going to pour in the Accurate number 5 gunpowder. And personally, I always like to have the powder measure at least half full, because that way I can keep consistent pressures or gravity weight on the powder measure. We'll put our cap back in place, and of course then we'll put the top back on our box of Accurate powder. Okay, and we'll put this over here out of the way, away from our loader. Now then, we're going to take a cleaned case, and we're going to use one that's already been fired. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust our powder measure, and it's very simple. And on the Dillon press, you can take out one of the little locator tabs, which is a little brass tab that goes in the sides of the ram here, of the shell plate. All right, and the next thing we're going to do, we're going to run about 10 charges of powder through the powder measure, and we're going to do it in our cleaned case. Now this case has already been fired, but it has been cleaned, so we're not going to contaminate our powder. What we're going to do is we're going to run it through like so, and let the powder measure work. All right, and we're going to pour the powder back in the top of the powder measure. We're going to do this 10 times, and the reason is you want the powder to adjust its flow, to get rid of any excess, any dust or anything that might be in the measure. So we're going to run about 10 charges through it before we start loading. And this is real important because it lets the working parts of the powder measure adjust to each other, because it's so important that we get consistency in our loads. Now these powder measures are so accurate, they will typically run within 1/10 of a grain of powder. Now we're not talking about the just individual little tiny grains of powder, we're talking about the measurement grain, which in fact, let's see how much a grain is. Edit. All right, Bill, fade to black, and come back up right now. Edit. 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, a grain of powder, not talking about the little granules now, we're talking about a grain, is 1/7,000th of a pound. It takes 7,000 grains in measurement to make a pound. So that's what we're concerned with, and the accuracy of these scales or these powder measures is really good to get to 1/10 of a grain of powder. So this is so important. We're going to run about 10 or so charges of powder through the measure and through the charging die, so we'll be sure to have it consistently, so our ammunition can be consistent. Okay? Bring us in, we'll fade to black, and how much you got a minute? You got this whole thing in the picture here. All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, I'm looking in an Accurate Arms powder manual, a loading guide using Accurate Arms powder, because that's what we're using today. We're using Accurate number 5. We'll put the lid back on our powder measure here. So I'm choosing a load of 7.8 grains of Accurate number 5, but behind a 230 grain full metal jacket 45 caliber bullet. So I can tell by the loading manual, it says 7.8 grains is going to run somewhere around 850 or so feet per second. Whoops, back up, edit. All right, just let it run, that's okay. We'll go to black again, and then we'll come up because it's hard to change the camera angle. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now looking in the manual here, I can see that 7.8 grains behind the 230 grain bullet is going to give me approximately 800 or so feet per second. That's what I'm looking at for today, which is a real nice practice load. It'll be good in the 45 semi-automatic revolver. And I say semi-automatic revolver, the revolver that takes the semi-automatic pistol cartridge, and also in our Colt 45 ACP. So the next thing we're going to do, because we already have our powder measure set, and we need now to set the proper depth for the bullet. We're going to do that in just a moment. We're going to take one primer and be very careful. And remember, when we handle primers, it's real important to have your hands completely dry and free from anything that might contaminate the priming compound in the primer. Very careful. All right, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take out our tube here. We're going to insert. All right, you bumped the camera then. All right, bring it on up. All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, we're going to put our primer with the open face up in our primer tube here, and put our little plastic follower in the primer tube. We've got one primer in the machine because that's all we're going to use for just a moment. One primer. Okay, we're going to take our cleaned and empty fired case. We're going to insert it in station 1. We're going to bring the press up, bring the handle down, resize the case, punch out the primer, and our primer pickup here has brought one, and when you press the lever all the way forward, it will properly seat the primer. And then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to move our new case with a fresh primer in it, our resized case, I said new, and we're going to get our powder charge right here. Okay, cut it off. And we'll go to black, and then we'll come up again. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, the reason we put one primer in here because we only want to play with one case here for just a moment. It's real important because we're going to set our bullet seating depth. Now then, we have a primed and charged with gunpowder case. We're going to turn the shell plate around, and that's one thing I like about the 550. It lets you have to manually turn the shell plate, and of course Dylan makes automatic or indexing machines too. But I personally like the shell plate that I can move with my fingers because if you have a heavy charge, edit, it's all right. Got choked. All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. One reason I like the Dylan machine, the 550, that you have to turn the shell plate with your fingers is because if you have, say, a 9mm case that is a pretty intense cartridge, or a 40 that you have a lot of powder up near the top of the case mouth, you don't spill any. Some of the automatic indexing machines will sometimes, in a rapid movement, will spill a little bit of powder out the top of the case. So when you can turn the shell plate with your fingers, it gives you a lot more freedom and discretion on what you want to do, whether you want to go forward or backwards with the case, whichever. Anyway, now then, we've got our case mouth belled, a charged case with a fresh primer in it. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to seat our bullet. We'll place our bullet in the belled case mouth over the powder charge. And what we're going to do, and the reason we put in that one primer is because we don't have to worry about when we run the bring the handle down on the machine, we don't worry about picking up another primer from the tube. Like I said, we want to get one bullet exactly right, and once we get our adjustments is exactly right for one bullet, then the rest of them will be right. So we're going to get our first one first. First things first, whatever. All right, we're going to bring the round up, and we're going to start the bullet in the case. Now I've already got enough of the die there to start the bullet. Now then, we're going to take our vernier caliper, and we'll take our locator tab out so we can remove. And we're going to look in the loading manual and see what the proper depth is. And we're far too long here, we're going to have to bring it down some more. All right, you can cut it off. Edit. Go to black. Now bring it up. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now then, friends, we're going to look over in the Hornady Handbook of Cartridge Reloading, and it tells us here for the 230 grain round nose bullet, the full metal jacket, the cartridge overall length, initial COL here, is 1.250 inches. So that's how long we want the loaded cartridge to be, 1.250 inches. So what we're going to do, we're going to adjust our bullet seating die, and of course we'll use our vernier caliper because we want them right. If we are going to shoot it all, let's shoot the best ammunition we can. And we're going to load the bullet to 1.25 inches. All right, bring it out.
I got you in the thing.
Okay. Edit. Go to black. Edit. 3, 2, 1. And now then, friends, we continue to adjust our seating die, and our vernier caliper says that we are exactly 1.250 inches, and we do want to be real careful about that. You really need a vernier caliper. It's real important. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to place our bullet and case combination here back in the loading die, or in the shell plate. Bring it on around, turn it one more time, and we're going to run it up through the taper crimp. There it is, and down, and of course now we have a loaded 45 ACP cartridge. And this particular cartridge should function every bit as well as a factory round in our guns. All right. All right. Edit. 3, 2. Now then, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now friends, we've put some more primers in our primer tube here, our primer loading tube. We're going to put them up on top of the machine on the press here. Edit. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, we put some more primers in our tube here, and I think we're edit. 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, we have just put some more primers in our primer tube here. It will hold 100 at a time. So if you have more primer pickup tubes, you can have some primers ready to just slip in the machine. So what we're going to do, we're going to put our follower, and of course we have a little indicator here that will sound an alarm when we get down to 3 or 4 primers left in our tube. Very handy device. And you can tell one from the follower just how many primers approximately are left in it. So let's start doing what this machine is designed to do. Let's load some bullets. Put our first case in station 1. Alright, edit. 3, 2, 1. Alright, friends, let's do what this machine is designed to do. We've got our primers in place. We've got our powder measure properly adjusted. Our dies are adjusted properly. So let's start loading some bullets. And we can come back up in just a minute. Bear with me, Bill. Okay, edit. 3, 2, 1. Alright, friends, let's do what this machine is designed to do. Let's load some cartridges. Insert a case and a bullet. Handle down. And we're almost around on our stations there with the loaded round. The next one will crimp it. The next stroke of the handle. All right, here we go. Everything's in place. The press is running. We have a loaded round. Insert a case. Insert a bullet. Pull the handle. Back up. Seat the primer. Another loaded round. And one thing I want to mention, it's not a good idea to have anyone talking to you while you're loading. You need to do this by yourself, because you really need to pay attention and concentrate, because the last thing in the world you'd want in a match, or certainly if your life depended on it, was a misfire or a cartridge case that was not properly filled with powder, whatever else. We need to be safe, and this is one of those things, like playing solitaire. You do this best by yourself. Don't have anyone talking to you, because you may become distracted, you may develop a problem with one of the cases, or something may go wrong, and you need to be paying attention if that happens. So, for another reloading segment this week. All right. Well, all right. Intro. This is the one, I hope. Intro. 3, 2, 1. Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and welcome again to this week's program. We're out here on the range. It's a beautiful day. You may hear a little wind because it is March and it is windy. We hope it's not too bad. Anyway, we want to thank everyone who's written to us and called us in support of our program, and we want to remind you now, please let those manufacturers and organizations know how important the Shootin' Show is to all of us, because it is expensive doing what we're doing with our 1 hour broadcast every week. We need every bit of help we can get. So, let's begin another Shootin' Show.
Don't record yet.
All right. Okay. Got it? All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, the gun we opened the show with a few minutes ago is one of the neatest semi-automatic pistols that I have seen in a while. We had the Smith & Wesson 411 on last week's program, and this week we're going to have another 40 caliber gun. This is the Ruger P91 decocker. Now, if you'll notice, it is very similar in size to the Smith & Wesson 411, and they're just different guns. They're a little bit different concept. The good news is both these guns are in a similar price range, but the Ruger is a slightly larger edit. All right, got different camera angle. All right, take 2, edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, the gun that we opened the program with a few minutes ago was the great Ruger P91 decocker. And I say great because these are really such well-made and ruggedly put together handguns. In the 40 caliber, in fact, this may be my favorite of the Ruger semi-automatic series and centerfire. They make a 9mm, they make the 45 ACP, but this is such a good compromise in the 40 caliber. Now, this is a decocking model, and what appears in the same place as a safety is in fact not a safety, it is a decocker. And you'll remember from last week's program we talked about how to decock one of the double action automatics with the safety, such as our Smith & Wesson 411. But this gun's safety levers, in fact the decocking levers, have a different function. This gun will always fire. It will not go into a situation where the trigger cannot be pulled and it won't fire. It does not have a magazine safety, which I personally like. That's just a matter of opinion for you as an individual. But this gun operates very much like a revolver in the sense it is always ready to fire when you pull the trigger. Your safety feature is, of course, the long double action trigger pull, which will be for your first shot. And remember what I said last week, the way that I handle these guns personally, every time, and we know this one's unloaded, every time I start to put the gun down or put it back in my holster, I will check that decocker. I will move it with my thumb, whether it's cocked or not. It's just a safety proceeding that I think is very important and will prevent accidents. This gun is similar in size to our Smith & Wesson 411. It's just a little bit bigger. They appear to be about the same weight. Both of them are alloy frame guns, and I'll tell you what, we've been most impressed. These are two of the best semi-automatic edit.
I'm changing frame.
Okay. Edit. 3, 2, 1. I tell you what, it's a hard choice, and I'm glad I don't have to make that choice from the Smith & Wesson 411 to the Ruger P91, because they're just different guns. They're both equally fine semi-automatic pistols, but the Ruger, if you're a Ruger fan and you like the way that Rugers are made, you're really going to like this Ruger P91 decocker. It has an extremely accurate barrel, and of course the beauty part again about Ruger, if they build anything, it's going to be durable and reliable. And who knows how long it would take to wear this gun out. It would take more years of shooting than I'm going to do, I'm sure. But we've really enjoyed this gun. It doesn't have a lot of recoil. We have shot the mild target loads in it and then edit.
I just changed the frame anyway. So.
Okay. Edit. 3, 2, 1. We have shot this gun with all sorts of heavy loadings and light loadings. It has functioned 100% for us. As I said, Rugers are typically going to be very reliable, and we have really enjoyed it. It doesn't have as much recoil as I thought it would have due to its weight. Being certainly, it's not a heavyweight, it's a fairly light gun, but the engineering here, they have engineered out a lot of the recoil somehow or another. Anyway, okay. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now the P91 holds 11 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber, giving you a total of 12. Again, very comparable to the Smith & Wesson 411. And I'm not going to make any prediction at all on which one of these is the best gun. They're just different. And we have certainly enjoyed shooting both of them. But let's take a look at the P91 in recoil. We're going to be shooting the Winchester Silvertip. This is a 155 grain bullet moving at a little over 1,100 feet per second. So this will be an excellent defensive load, an excellent small game load, and the Winchester Silvertips typically are extremely accurate in most guns. So let's take a look at it shooting. We'll load the gun, put the magazine in the base, be sure it's all the way in, and of course to load the chamber, pull that slide all the way back and let it go. Now then, we're going to decock the gun with the muzzle in a safe direction. That is so important. Even though the safety / decockers do not enable the hammer to hit the firing pin, what we're going to do, we're always going to hold the gun in a safe direction. We're just not going to take chances. Well, let's take a look at it in recoil and just see how much, in fact, all right, change the camera angle, baby. All right, edit.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Edit. 3, 2, 1. So let's take a look, shooting the full charge silver tips, and just see how much recoil it has. First shot, double action. Second shot, not bad at all. It doesn't hurt your hand, certainly. Now, you know it went off, but it's certainly not objectionable. Well, let's try the gun on a paper target and see what it looks like. Bill will go to black, and now we'll come up on the gun shooting. All right, edit. 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, going to put our finger on the trigger. The first shot will be double action. And remember, that second shot is going to be single action. The trigger's a lot further back. And of course, now we'll put the decocking lever down. We'll decock the gun. Friends, you can tell that wasn't too bad. So let's try our gun on paper and just see what kind of accuracy it's going to give us today. Edit. 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, let's try our P91, and I think that this gun deserves a little more testing, maybe at longer ranges, some more things. In fact, we may do an accuracy comparison between our Ruger and the Smith & Wesson 411 on another program. But let's see it on paper. We've got our paper target out here at about 10 yards or so, about 30 some odd feet, and let's see what how accurate the gun is offhand for me today with Winchester 180 grain jacketed hollow points. So let's take a look. And we'll decock the gun. So let's go up. All right, edit. 3. Just stay on me when I'm doing the shooting, and then we'll go up to the target, okay?
Okay.
All right. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, I believe that this Ruger P91 is going to deserve another segment on our program. In fact, we may even compare accuracy in combat accuracy as well as longer range accuracy with our Smith & Wesson 411. They're both very fine guns. This Ruger has a stainless steel slide. It has an aluminum alloy frame with some sort of very, very durable hard coat on it. and most, I'm sure all the internal parts are made of stainless steel, pretty much non-corrosive all the way through. Now, you know, stainless does not mean maintenance free. It means lower maintenance than a blued steel gun. You have a finish here. In fact, you know, stainless will in fact rust or it will corrode, so they do need some care. But in a damp environment, or if you're a police officer, you have to work in the rain, or if you're on a hunting trip and you're worried about a finish, well, stainless is definitely an awfully good option to consider. Well, let's shoot our P91, shooting the 180 grain Winchester jacketed hollow points. And we have our paper target out here at about 10 yards, a little over 30 feet. So let's take a look at it on paper offhand, and let's just see what it'll do this morning under really windy conditions here on the range. And we'll decock it, put it on safe. Now then, let's go up to our target and see what it looks like.
Okay.
Hit it. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, I tell you what, that's a pretty impressive group for offhand. And remember, I'm always saying I'm the average shooter because it's true. I don't have any special abilities, but that's awfully good performance from that particular handgun. We have 4 literally in one hole, and we have the 5th shot a half-inch away from the large hole. So I would say typical of Ruger handguns. They're normally extremely accurate. Also, Rugers typically get a little more velocity from a given loading than most other handguns. I don't know why. I'm sure there's some engineering reason, and I guess I ought to call them and ask them. But that's a very fine group. Again, that is from the center of this group. It's just a little over 1 inch at about 30 or 35 feet offhand. So that proves the gun certainly, in my hands today, I'm shooting fairly well today, I guess, is extremely accurate and could be useful certainly for defense, for law enforcement, or for small game hunting. That's definitely an option. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Now, friends, this is certainly an option as far as powerful, reasonably compact, easily carried handguns goes. This probably is going to be as reliable a semi-automatic handgun as money can buy, knowing, again, those good folks at Ruger and what they normally put out for sale to the public. But this is certainly a gun that I'm going to enjoy shooting, and in fact, I'll probably carry this gun here some on the farm, and trust me on this one, I will find out just how rugged it is. So again, the Ruger P91 decocker, and you can shoot it slow and accurate, or in fact, you can shoot it fairly fast and accurate. Edit. 3, 2, 1. Friends, we have really enjoyed this Ruger P91 decocker model, and it's probably as reliable a semi-automatic handgun as money can buy, because we've had so much experience with Ruger products in the past. Now, any manufacturer, and we've had problems at one time or another with every manufacturer's guns, and we have had most of them through our test program. But by and large, Ruger, and I'm so proud, Ruger is an American company. They build all their things here in our country. It just goes to show that the Americans can build products equal to or better than anyone else in the world, and we do applaud Bill Ruger's efforts. So if you're looking for a powerful yet fairly compact and fairly lightweight handgun, this would certainly be a tremendous home defense gun, a good gun for a police officer, even for small game hunting, because this 40 caliber, listen now, it's no wimp. The 40 is becoming closer and closer with the new loadings to the 357 Magnum cartridge, so which is one of the greatest cartridges of all time. So listen, this 40 is just beginning. No telling what we're going to see out of it in the next couple of years. Well, as we saw a moment ago, you can shoot this Ruger slow and accurately, or in fact, you can speed up a little bit and edit. 3, 2, 1. So friends, whether you want to shoot slow and accurately or faster and accurately, bear with me, Bill. All right, this is take 19. I'm running out of bullets. Edit. 3, 2, 1. So friends, you know this gun is going to be accurate, shot slow and accurately. Or in fact, if you want to speed up a little bit and shoot, it'll also shoot faster and accurate. Great Ruger P91.